All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight for our first monthly meeting of 2023. We are very excited to kick things off. I will start off just by welcoming you if this is your first meeting with us or the first time you're joining us with Zoom. We do ask that everyone stay muted unless you're presenting or asking a question. That just makes sure that we don't have any feedback during the meeting. If I notice someone may have forgotten to unmute themselves, I may mute you. No offense, just want to make sure that everyone can hear who is presenting or speaking at any given time. So we'll move right in. I've uploaded a copy of the agenda into chat for anyone who'd like to follow along. Otherwise, we'll just move through. We will not have a treasurer's report this evening. We would normally have our 2022 end of year report, but our treasurer is unfortunately not here due to an unexpected passing in his family. So we wish Eric and his family well, and we will have those reports for everyone next month. Otherwise, we'll jump right into our zoning variance. We have one zoning variance item for this evening. Our zoning chair, Tate, also unable to be here, so I'll be kind of introducing the folks who are presenting, and our member at large, David, thank you, is going to take on the role of helping to document questions when we enter that phase. Do we have the folks here for 1717 South High Street?
I don't think so.
Possibly not.
Oh, okay. Yes, Richard Buds. I'm an architect.
Hey, Richard, are you going to be doing the presentation this evening?
No, Rick will.
Okay, Rick just isn't here with us yet.
I'm actually I'm the applicant.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, John.
I couldn't get it off mute quick enough.
No problem, no problem. Okay, great. So I'll allow you to introduce your project. Let us know about the variance that we're voting on this evening. If you have anything you'd like to share on the screen, please feel free to do so. And we just ask that you spend 5 minutes or less kind of presenting what we're voting on tonight, and we'll then move into a phase where we take questions. So the floor is yours.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you have the ability to put the application up on the screen?
You know, I don't have that available with me for all of my tools. Do you?
I don't have it, but I can explain it.
Okay.
However, has everyone seen the actual BZA application?
We do send a copy of that to our members, and there is a copy available on our website right now.
Okay. All right. So essentially,
well, sorry, Jess, would it be helpful, like, should I pull up a Google map or anything? I mean, would that be useful?
If you can pull up a street view, that would be fine.
Okay, I'll do that.
Wonderful. Thank you, David.
Well, the previous site plan that was approved for this property was 1975. And the building was built as a Midas muffler service shop, and it's had a continued use as, automotive based service. The CC overlay changed the parking and stacking requirements, and I can't tell you the date that the overlay took effect, but needless to say, it prohibits parking and stacking between the building facade and the right-of-way, unless the overlay left a loophole, not a loophole, but it left an exception that you could apply to BZA if the building was designed in such a way that that was sort of part and parcel for the use of the building, that you could park and stack in front. There have been several zoning violations for the last, I'm going to say 3 years. I didn't get into this until about a year ago. I was retained to do this work. But all of that being said, they were leaving, at the state of that time, the user was leaving inoperable vehicles parked out front, and got several code violations over the years. As you can see there, same sort of problem. So I'm applying for this variance for the owner of the property. And there is a site plan that's part of that application that is allowing stacking in front of the building, in front of the repair bays, and handicap parking where you see the black. You want to slide to the right just a little bit. That SUV that's head in at the door, that would end up being, well, some of the bollards would come out in the middle, and that would end up being the handicap parking space. And then I think we're just applying for a second space in front and then 3 behind, which would meet the overlay's parking requirements for the building. It's just that 1975 site plan, which shows 10 parking spaces and basically allows parking to be counted inside the building. It's just out of date. And, you know, yeah, the building could get cleaned up a little bit, and I think the owner is amenable to that, but he'd like to get these zoning code violations cleared up and do that through the exception that's available to him through the overlay. That's any questions I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, John. Okay, so what I'm going to do, David, thank you so much for doing that. If you wouldn't mind switching now, David, over to the document that we'll be taking questions in. So this document will also list the variance that you're requesting, just so folks can see the language of that. And then if anyone does have questions, you can feel free to use the hand raise feature in Zoom, or if you're not familiar with that, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. David will actually document your question rather than having John, you answer the question immediately, just so we can capture everything and then have you answer all of those questions at once. Maybe there will be none, I'm not sure, but just waiting to hear from folks. Mark.
Do you want me to mute in the meantime here?
You don't need to. I don't hear any background sound coming, but if you just want to wait until we've got all the questions, then I'll turn it back over to you to answer.
Thank
Mark,
you.
go right ahead.
Hey, good evening. I'm just not clear on what's being asked. I'd like to hear what, I don't know what stacked means. I assume that means parked side by side, but I have no idea. I did look at the application, have it in front of me on my second device. I'm just not sure what's changing. If it's possible to show the current street view and then what's changing against what we see in the photo, that might be helpful to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised at the moment. All right, well, that might have been pretty simple then. It looks like that was our only question. David, I'm not sure if you still have Street View up. I know that won't really exactly answer Mark's question. I'm not sure if it'll be needed, but John, are you able to maybe clarify a little bit? I do know that we have the variance listed, but just clarify exactly what's being asked.
Mark, if you look at that site plan that it's a newer CAD drafted plan that says BZA in the lower right corner. If you can look at that on your other device. And if you want to switch your microphone on, we can talk too.
Hey, Jess, I can pull up the application if it would, just have to give me a second to do that, if that would help.
Yep, no problem. If we can do that, I know it was a larger file, but if it will load and you want to pull that up, that would be fine. That might be helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I only have one screen, so it's a little bit of a juggling thing.
I completely understand. I'm in the same situation.
All right, let me zoom in on that.
And do you know which page number we should be looking at, John?
Keep going. That's the original 1975 one.
Oh.
Keep going. There you go. And if you can zoom in to the site plan there, beautiful. Okay, so the office is set up here, and we'll have a handicap space there where you see the prescribed no parking, and then the handicap park, and then the other car headed straight in. So that would be the 2 parking spaces that are requested to be in the front. And then the allowable situation would be for a car to be in front of the doors. And those cars, you could potentially have 2 cars stacked in front before you get to the property line, which is the dash line that's 10 feet inside the sidewalk.
And by stacking, you essentially mean double parked, correct?
You could double park there, and as long as they're not hanging out into that 10-foot space, that would be acceptable for cars being serviced or dropped off. And then the other condition that we agree to is that stacking space will always, all the vehicles that are stacked there would be operable vehicles under the law. And if you scroll, if you scroll down, I think you'll be able to see the zoning violations. Next page down. And there is the storage of inoperable vehicles. So any vehicle that is in the stacking zone cannot have any of those conditions there. If there's a wreck or something's got a wheel off, or 2 or more tires are flat, or if a window is missing, those cars have to be stored in back of the establishment.
Okay, so this is an existing condition that did result in the zoning violations, and the variance you're requesting is to allow you to rectify the problem to be in compliance with the zoning code with a variance in place, yes?
Please, yes.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, folks, then, before we move on to the voting portion? Michael, I see you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
When do we get to speak as property owners next door?
I'm sorry?
When do we get to speak as property owners joining this property?
We don't just do a typical comment section, but if you have any questions, please go right ahead.
Can I show you a picture or two? Or
Yeah, we got pictures of what they're talking about that'll explain it a lot easier for everybody. So can we just share that for a second here?
Sure. Before we do you have an actual question that we can add here to our list before you share?
We're opposed to this, the stacking of the vehicles, because right now it will show you pictures that it's inoperable for us to get out and see down the street. This particular property, 1717, has been a terrible neighbor. They've got violations for oil into the city. We got pictures to show for that.
Okay, I'm sorry, just a moment, Michael. So we need to stick to the variance that's being requested. You mentioned the oil, so we can't talk about.
If they stack, we can't see to get out.
Okay, that we can definitely talk about. If you want to share a picture of that, that'd be fine, but we can't deviate into other items. So David, I'm just going to pause your screen sharing here for a moment. 1 second here.
Okay.
I've never done this before, so give me a second. It says I can't do it yet.
Yeah, 1 second. We just need to pause David's. Let's see here.
Oh, sorry.
You know what, David? It's actually not going to let me. If you wouldn't mind.
I think I paused it.
Oh, okay. You are still sharing. If you just want to click stop sharing.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. So if you wanted to show a photo regarding your concern about the stacked parking. Are you able to see
I'm
this?
just,
On Michael, on your side, are you able to see a share button? Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me. We
Michael,
are
can
getting
you
close to
still hear us?
time. Yeah. It doesn't seem like they can. Okay, Michael, let's see. It looks like their audio might have gone out.
You're
We
talking
are-
to
There we go. Yes. So there's nothing sharing on the screen. Do you have a photo to share about the stacked parking?
Can you see the photo now that's up?
No, we're not seeing anything.
Oh, we're showing you a bunch of disasters, wreckages, and police here, and
Right in front of the office. This is horrific.
there's like 5 trucks in the front of it. I wish you could see what I'm trying to show
I'll
you.
tell you what, can you see us
Oh.
right?
We
Can we-
can.
Take a
We
screenshot.
can
Okay.
see,
Here's a screenshot of one. Can you see that?
Just see your hand.
you got it on the other, you got to switch that.
It's just showing your hand. It's a
You're-
live
you're
camera.
taking a selfie of your hand.
Sorry about that.
It's, well, here.
Once you see the photo.
This, I can show you, we've got thousands of these.
Okay, I'm going to ask that you just share one photo. We are at our 15 minutes, and we do need to move into voting.
See that at all?
If you can see that, you'll see that these trucks are all over on the right
yeah.
hand side.
Oh,
It's all stacking. That's what they want to do, is stack those cars there. Nobody can pull in. That's nobody, our line of sight is completely blocked. We have constant, cannot get out. Our customers, because of stacking, are fighting with them. We've had the police come because of fights. We've had the police come recently this month because of fights.
there's fire after fire.
There's
after
fire. It's a nightmare for us because the stacking right here, they're working on vehicles. 1725, 1733, 1735 are all tenants are complaining about the noise, about the smell, about the smoke.
Okay.
It's a nightmare situation.
I'm sorry, Michael. We do need to stick to the variance being requested, though. So let me just ask John. John, often when you submit these applications, you'll receive staff comments about the request. Have you received any staff comments about the car stacking?
Yes, I have, and they're okay with that. And then on that site plan, you'll see the 10-inch, the 10-foot vision triangle that's required. At each corner, it says VT there and there. And those are required by the zoning code. And what we are requesting meets the code. Now, if there's some violation of that, I can understand, a neighbor's concern, but this is this guy's property, and those are his rights.
Guarantee they won't do this.
So I'm not.
Let's just one
I'm
thing.
not.
He talks about his thing, or he's going to store those vehicles. Those vehicles in the back are required by the same zoning requirements as the front. He is trying to put leaky oil vehicles in the back again, driving down our driveway. So this
Okay,
is
Michael, I'm sorry. We are very close to time. Another individual does have their hand raised.
I can't comment on the operator. I am only retained by the owner to take care of the zoning violations, which are pretty clear. And I believe that this request, which is perfectly in line with the commercial overlay.
what do you do with the customers pulling in? How do they do this?
Okay, Michael, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to please stop interrupting. I do need to take a question. We do need to keep this conversation specific to the variance. If there are zoning or code issues, I absolutely agree with John, but that is something that would need to be handled outside of this meeting, as we don't have jurisdiction to discuss or address those types of issues. This is a very specific conversation to this variance. Mark, I do see your hand raised if you'd like to go ahead. And then folks, we do need to move on to the voting portion.
One more
Yeah,
quick.
I just want to ask a point of information for clarity about the process. So I hear the gentlemen have probably some very important things that would be helpful to us and others in considering this. Is there a process in tonight's meeting to hear their comments during an open session or at any other point other than right now?
So we don't really have that kind of process as part of this based on what we're asked to do by the city and part of the area commission. This is certainly just one meeting. There are actually 3 meetings that will be addressing this specific application. The meeting tonight is just for the Merion Village Association, and of course we will vote on a recommendation. This is not ironclad. This is just the recommendation of any members that are present tonight with voting privileges. Beyond this, it will also go before the area commission. There will be an on-site meeting on January 14th, I believe, and then they will have their traditional meeting later in the month, which, let me get the date on that, would be the 24th. After all of that, all of those recommendations then go to the city, and the city will discuss. And yes, concerns can certainly be raised to the city on a larger scale. We simply don't have the ability to handle that within our process. Our process must focus specifically on the variance that's being requested.
Thanks for the explanation.
I did have one question. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. I'm Richard Butts, architect.
Go right ahead.
Did you take into consideration the Columbus Thoroughfare Plan? A lot of times with the reaction to stop, it was almost impossible to avoid accidents with cars going 45 miles an hour where you can't see, maybe 6 or 7 properties up the street.
That's right.
That's
Even
our
giving
problem.
out.
That's our biggest issue right now. Our customers can't come in.
Daily accidents every day.
It is an issue. The other thing, can we possibly send you email that video to attach this as part of your meetings when you send along to the commission?
So we will not send anything, like, you can certainly send to the commission. Absolutely. The commission is a public group that represents our area. We cannot attach that kind of information to our formal recommendation. But certainly please do feel free to send anything to the local commissioners. You can actually access the commission's website from ours. If you go to marionvillage.org, you'll see a notation, a link at the top that says Southside, and the Southside Area Commission is who would be handling the next site visit, which again is a public meeting that will be held at the site on the 14th of January.
At this site here, next door?
Yes, at the actual site of the application.
Oh, thank you for explaining that.
Yes.
That is the thing you should have said first.
Yes.
You're doing.
So that's wonderful. Yeah, that explanation of your process and stuff makes more sense now to us.
Yes, our process is rather limited, so that's why it's
We want to
specific
talk
to the variance.
to neighbors, but we definitely want to be able to use our properties.
Absolutely. I completely understand. Okay, folks, so here's what we're going to do. If you are a current member and you have been for at least 21 days, then we will ask you to be voting on this variance request. I've just posted a link to the chat. If you tap on that from your device, you should be able to go straight to the ballot. You can also get that link directly from our website, marionvillage.org. Scroll to the bottom, click vote, and that will be there. I'm just going to give everyone a few moments to vote. If you're not sure if you have renewed for the year, because that is possible, I'm also going to post here a link to our membership verification where you can double check to see if you've renewed for the year and have voting privileges this evening. So again, just going to give everyone a few moments to go ahead and submit your vote, please, and then we will share those results and move forward.
Speaker of the House. Like the Speaker of the House today, right?
Yes.
I like the way you do things.
Yeah, it was very nice. I think your explanation was perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yep, we just want to make sure everybody understands the process can be a bit convoluted. Where we get kind of our requirements from the city and we just try to fit into that process. So just want to make sure we can.
You see he's paying attention?
Are you at home? Is that your Christmas tree?
It is. It has not come down yet.
No, it's not. I haven't yet.
All right, I see the votes coming in, folks. Just going to give everybody a couple more minutes here. Okay, is there anyone here that has not yet voted and is in the process of doing so? Okay, it looks like that is all of the votes then. Let me go ahead and count this. We will also verify membership before sharing the official vote count with the commission. But as it appears right now, it looks like we received a total of 8 votes this evening. We have 4 opposed, 2 in support, and 2 abstentions. So the recommendation we will pass along to the commission, assuming all voting parties are current members, is that we currently oppose this variance request. So, John, I do appreciate you being here this evening and presenting.
May I ask if there is anything that your zoning committee has as far as compromises or things that need to be attended to prior to meeting with all of Merion Village? Or I'm sorry, not Merion Village, but Southside.
So the way our process works is now that the votes have been cast, this would not be altered unless you were to represent at another meeting and a new vote was to take place. That typically only happens if an application is altered in some way. If a variance is added, subtracted, or changed, applicants will then occasionally need to come back to another meeting and have another vote. But our recommendation is just our step in the process. The area commission will, of course, handle their process independently and review the variance as well. And I believe they will take public comments for those who attend their on-site meeting. So that is just our step.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for presenting. And David, thank you for helping to facilitate the visuals during the presentation. All right, everyone. We are going to move on to our next agenda item here. This is a really exciting one. We'll talk about the 2022 MVA Audit Committee. So if you've been a member for a while, you know that each year we ask at least one member of the association to volunteer to serve as our audit committee to look over our books for the past year, make sure everything is in order. So we are looking for a volunteer to help us with that this year. If you're interested, please reach out to us. You can just email mvaboard@merionvillage.org and let us know if you are willing to help. All right, this is a little bit more interesting and fun. We'll have a bit of a conversation here and share with you results from our neighborhood survey, which I hope you all had an opportunity to take. So we circulated a survey toward the end of the year, gave folks a couple of months to give us feedback on where they think we should focus in the coming year and beyond, what they'd like to hear from at meetings, and how we're doing. Are we visible? Are we effective in the neighborhood? What's that look like? So I'll just share some of the highlights with folks and then ask for a bit of your feedback as well. First and foremost, we asked everyone where we should be focusing over the next 12 months. We asked them to select their top 3 options, and the winners were beautification, zoning and land use, and annual events. So for anyone here who may have taken the survey or has interest in those topics, we are going to handle beautification a little differently than we have in the past. We've been trying to find someone to serve in the beautification committee chair role now for several years, and it really hasn't worked out. It's mostly been an issue of folks having time to commit to such a kind of big undertaking. So we're going to break beautification down into projects more than an overall committee. So if there is a beautification project that you're interested in, maybe planting more trees in the neighborhood, or planting more gardens, helping folks get access to flowers, whatever you can think of that would beautify the neighborhood. If you are interested in that, we would love to hear from you. We're looking for maybe some captains to help take on some of those projects. I think I saw a hand raised, but now I'm not sure. Okay, perhaps not. So we're going to be looking for feedback from folks, what kind of beautification projects you'd like to see and what you're willing to help out with. But we definitely want to focus on that, since that was that was the top selection during the survey. So folks are definitely interested in seeing some beautification to the area, and stay tuned for that and what opportunities to come. Zoning and land use is kind of something where we actually have a question for folks. What does zoning and land use mean to you? If you're someone that voted for this option, or maybe would have voted for this option, what does that mean to you? What do you see the MVA doing with respect to zoning and land use? What type of voice do you feel the MVA should have? Besides, of course, the processes we already handle, like what you just participated in. Does it mean something more than that to you? Is there anyone here that has anything they'd like to share or thoughts on zoning and land use?
I have a thought. My name is Lydia, by the way. Hi.
Hey, Lydia.
So one idea that I've had for a while is like having more like park spaces or just third-party areas. And I know that there's a handful of like lots just like empty lots in Merion Village, especially one near like the specialty hospital. That's like a large one. Never see a single car for like years there. And I've always thought like that could be a cool place to have like a park or to like do something else with it. But obviously if it's like owned by the city or owned by the hospital, there'd have to be like zoning to that, or like I don't know, with a process that would have to go on. But when I think of zoning and land use, I think of parks or just like third-party spaces people can go to gather as a community.
Yeah, we actually have a pocket park that is at the corner of Bruck and Morrill. It's known as Walker Park, but it was a residential lot that many years ago the home was demolished, and Merion Village has been leasing that from the city for a very small fee each year to have a pocket park. So it sounds like you kind of have interest in maybe expanding on that if possible.
Yeah, something like that, or like even if it had to do with like better pollination and like natural types, like native plants and everything like that, stuff that's good for the environment could also be a plus.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Zach. You still there, Zach?
Hi,
There we
sorry,
go.
sorry. Yeah, no, in terms of zoning, I know I'm not familiar with the structure of the committee. I know Tate really takes the lead on a lot of that. And just for folks to like come into this meeting, sometimes I'm sure it can be overwhelming if it's the first time you're seeing some of the materials. And I'm wondering if folks are interested in sort of knowing more ahead of the meetings, if there's any way to do that.
Okay, I think that's a good point. I will tell you that as far as the committee is concerned, Tate is currently the chair and only member of said committee, but he would certainly welcome additional folks who are interested and would like to join. Since you're not new to the area, Zach, but you've just kind of gotten involved with the MVA over the last year, which we were very thankful for. If you can kind of recall when you were first coming to the area and learning about the MVA, where do you think would have been a place that you would have easily seen information like that if we were to share it ahead of time?
Oh, I think that I would need to think about that a little bit more. I'm not quite sure.
Sounds good. And that goes for everyone. If you can recall when you were first coming to the area and learning about the MVA, I'm sure everybody kind of learned about the MVA a little differently. Where did you find that information initially? Where did you hear about us? Because that's kind of one of our big focuses, ongoing, right, is to make sure people know that we exist and learn how they can get involved. So I think this kind of zoning information would tie into that, other than just sending folks the information that we do ahead of the meeting that this application is up for review. What could we do and how could we better communicate what that process looks like, what it means, and how people can get involved if they want to. Okay, anyone else have any?
And also the idea of a pocket park. I do have a neighborhood lot next to me that I'm sure would be a great candidate for that in the meantime before it's turned into a home. So I'd be interested in talking about that in the future.
Awesome. Okay, exciting. I think that I think folks really love the pocket park we have, and I would certainly love to see more of those pop up around the neighborhood if possible. So glad to hear that other people are interested in that as well. Anyone else have anything or thoughts on zoning and land use that they'd like to share before we talk a bit more about the survey? Okay. The other area, of course, where folks wanted us to focus is annual events. And that is certainly something that we love to focus on. As you're probably aware, we got to return to our garden tour last year and our festival and our potluck. So we got an opportunity to host those events again after a 2-year hiatus. This was our most successful festival ever. It was wonderful. We were so excited to bring that event. And we want to continue that momentum, of course, right? How can we make events even better? I will say that I'm going to kind of jump ahead on my own agenda here, but we're kind of discussing as a board some ideas for a spring event. The Merion Village founding anniversary from 1985 is actually in the month of April. So we're talking about maybe some type of Founders Day celebration and maybe coupling that with a plant exchange or an Easter egg hunt or other spring activities. So we'd love to hear from folks what kind of activities you might want to be doing in the spring, what you'd like to join us for. If you have anything you want to share now, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us and let us know what you'd like to be doing come spring here in the neighborhood. Let's see here. Okay. Another area where we asked everyone to respond is how they're participating in meetings. Do you attend meetings? If you do or don't, what would you like to hear discussed? And a lot of folks did say that they'd like to have guest speakers return. That can sometimes be easier now that we are in a virtual setting because it's a bit more convenient for guests to join our meetings since they are in the evening. David is working on trying to find us some guest speakers. We're thinking possibly every other month. But if there's somebody specific anyone would like to hear from, we'd love to hear from you on that and know who those entities or folks are that you'd like to come speak at a meeting. So does anyone have any recommendations for guest speakers this year?
And also feel free to email me or reach out to me if you have any suggestions you'd like to provide in the future. I'm going to try to get someone for February, but definitely for future months, it'd be great to have a list of ideas.
Awesome. And you can email David at member@large@merionvillage.org. Mark.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to ask. I think that not just guest presenters, but there could be some education involved. Some of it could be educational, and I'd like to see some things about our history and the community as a whole. So I don't know if there's a Merion Village historian that can tell the story of the neighborhood and all those things. But the first I'd like to recommend would be the Columbus Fire REACT team. That is the opioid response team, and they do life-saving critical work throughout our neighborhood constantly. We're one of the hot spots of the city for opiate use and overdose and deaths. So that team, what happens is when a overdose patient is responded to by the fire department, that team is the secondary responder, and they meet the patient at the hospital. And their goal is within the acute setting to get the patient to go to rehab, and they will take them on the spot. So that'd be one, and there are some other teams. Columbus Police has a crisis response team for behavioral health. And again, we're the hotspot for that in the city, along with Linden and some other areas. So I think those two would be some high profile, really, educational driven information that I think our neighborhood members should know about.
Wonderful
Thanks.
suggestions. Thank you so much, Mark.
And you said that first one was called the Columbus Fire REACT team?
Oh, you're still muted, Mark.
RREACT, REACT. You can see it on the Columbus Fire site. And then I'll have to find the name of the police team, but it's the crisis response team for behavioral health.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thanks.
Steve. Oh, hold on, Steve. It doesn't say you're muted, but I can't hear you. Okay.
Okay, how's that, Jess?
There we go.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Unplugged my headphones and it blows up the whole thing. Want to +1 Mark's excellent suggestion about like neighborhood history. I think that's a really lovely suggestion. Would like to, I've been doing some work with a organization called the Columbus Safety Collective, talking about non-police emergency response alternatives also. So David, if y'all want to put something together on that thing about like what's happening with REACT and the mobile crisis response unit, drop me a line. I'm happy to have that conversation and potentially queue up some of the things happening in the city right now around that. I want to jump back to the other, the thing about the zoning and land use, so the city is like taking on like this like citywide revision of the zoning code right now. And I imagine that like Tate is like probably plans to watch those conversations or be up on it. There's so like I would love to have this be a forum through which I could learn about those things without having like sit in those meetings as well. And I feel like there's a piece around just like our strategic priorities as like a civic association for when zoning things come up. Because I think like oftentimes we see things like kind of look at them as like one-offs, but it would be cool as the city is going through this process that we could think about like how we have that conversation. Like what are the things that like as a neighborhood we want to say yes to or we want to say no to, so we can get a sense of a more cohesive vision of like when we're voting up and down on variances.
I think that's a great suggestion.
But yeah, like things with cool conversations. Thanks.
Awesome. And candidly, we don't know. So this review process that Stephen mentioned, if you're not familiar with it, it's a multi-year review of the zoning code from A to Z. They're going through the entire thing and revamping. We have heard that there is a possibility that when the process is completed, that this process we currently go through where the civic kind of has input, we may lose that. We certainly hope that we will not, and we have shared with representatives that we would like to maintain that process. From what I'm told, there are many places around the city where civics actually don't get the opportunity to be involved in the process at all. So I would very much hate for us to lose that, and we hope that by structuring our process that we're helping to make it possible for us to keep it. So that is certainly something we're keeping an eye on as well, and hoping that the city does not take that process away. So we will certainly update everyone if we hear more about that. Okay. Anything else that anybody wants to share on zoning or land use, guest speakers you'd like to hear from? And of course, if you think of a guest speaker later, always feel free to email again, David, member@large at merionvillage.org, because we'll certainly be looking for speakers throughout the year. So, okay, thanks for your suggestions, guys. That is fantastic. Okay, what else do we have here? So another area that we asked everyone to give some input is, again, how visible are we to the neighborhood and how effective are we in the neighborhood? And both of those got a rating of somewhat. So very happy to see that we are at least somewhat effective, but always wanting to know how we can be more effective. How can we be seen by folks? If someone's moving into the area, how do we let them know that we're here and here to support and here to engage? And effectiveness as well. How do we make sure that the efforts of our volunteers are doing as much as they can for the community? So definitely looking for dialogue and feedback on that. We'd love to hear from folks. Again, you're all folks who learned about us and have then become engaged and attend our meetings and our events. And if you see something that you think maybe we could do a little differently, or a way we could outreach to our neighbors, we would love to hear that feedback. So please always feel free to share. You can share that here. You can send that to mvaboard@merionvillage.org, whatever you're more comfortable with. And we're always hopeful that you will give us your feedback on that. Last but not least, 43% of the people who completed our survey said they are interested in volunteering with the association. So we are very excited to hear that. We will actually be sending an email out to those folks here in the coming weeks, just to kind of re-engage and ask maybe where they'd like to volunteer, see what that looks like for each person, and then try to get some new volunteers onboarded and working toward the various goals of the MVA. So if you are interested in volunteering, same, always reach out to us and let us know. I guarantee you, whatever you're interested in, we have something you can help with. So please always feel free to let us know when you've got some time to share. Otherwise, that's pretty much the summary. Did anyone have any questions about our neighborhood survey, or any additional thoughts you might like to share that could just be helpful with us as we really plan for the year coming? All right, well, thank you so much, folks. We'll move on here. This is just a reminder that our memberships are annual. If you have not yet renewed, please do so. I did post a link in chat a bit earlier, so you could check to see if you've renewed for 2023. If your name is not on that list, you still have time. As long as you renew before the end of February, you will be able to immediately reactivate your voting privileges without having to wait the additional 21-day waiting period. So I encourage everyone to do that, and we'll of course be sending out email reminders as well to last year's members who may have forgotten to renew. MVA Info Center. So just a reminder, if you are a member of the MVA, you have the ability to reserve our Info Center for free for an event, a party, a book club, a meeting, whatever suits your fancy. The Info Center can comfortably hold about 30 folks. We do have folding tables and chairs available for you to use, so you don't need to bring those along with you. And then we, of course, have air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter. There is one bathroom in this center. It is not ADA compliant, so make sure if you have folks that need those accommodations that you're aware of that, since the Info Center does not meet ADA requirements. But we would love for folks to start using the center and start having some life into it again. We're also looking at some different events that we can potentially host. We talked about maybe a paint and sip event, some fundraisers for the association to allow us to upkeep the center. Of course, we do have rent there each month. And some different things. So if there are little activities or fundraisers you might be interested in participating in, we'd love to hear from you. Ultimately, if no one's interested, we certainly wouldn't want to do it, because then no one would come. So please share with us what you might like to do or participate in, whether that's a game night, a book club, again, a paint and sip event, maybe small pop-up yoga classes, whatever sounds good to you. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see here. Okay. Moving
I think-
on. Oh,
Can I make a
Jess, you-
quick
yes,
comment?
Lydia, please go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I walk by the info center almost every day, and I was wondering who's in charge of, or if no one, like the window, just like the outside portion of it.
Mm.
Because it kind of looks like an abandoned room. And I'm saying like I would be, or if this is the beautification committee or whomever, I would love to like revamp it just a little, like just make it more aesthetically pleasing so that when people walk by, it's like, that's a real thing. Like we could use this space and it's not like a scary looking space
I think that's a great
in the
suggestion.
nicest way possible.
I know our landlord had told me early in the fall that they were actually planning to power wash the building. It's been quite a while since that happened, and it is in need. We had talked in the past about potentially painting the wood around our center, but I'm not sure that
Mhm.
she would want that. I think that the intention might be for that to be uniform.
Yeah.
I will say that our actual landlord did just pass away recently at the end of the year, and her daughter, who we've been working with for several years, is who we work with now, and is our point of contact. So I'll reach out to her just to check to
Okay.
see what
I'm
that
Lydia,
looks
mostly
like.
I have
talking,
a question. Yeah, I was
oh,
wondering
sorry,
if
I
you
was
were
just
talking about like doing stuff in like a display or something like from the inside. 'Cause I
yes,
think-
so kind of like having, so instead of the blinds that look like papery blinds, like maybe making them a little bit nicer, maybe adding like plants in the windows.
Oh, that's actually not our space. The paper blinds are,
Oh.
that is a vacant space, actually.
The one, but the one next,
The blue
looks
curtains is
similar.
us. Yes, the
The
light
blue
blue
curtains,
curtains.
okay.
That's the info center.
to
Yes.
me, sorry, they also looked like, but if there was like plants in the window or like bigger posters or like a stained glass piece or anything that just makes it look a little homier.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly in the window. It doesn't have to be like painting on the outside, unless we want a light on the sign, kind of like how South Bend has a light. So when it gets dark, we don't have a light on the sign, so you can't read it once it's like, once the sun goes down.
We
Just
actually
one.
have been talking about refreshing our sign. That's something we've been looking into because that sign is pretty faded from years of abuse of the sun. So we are talking about refreshing our sign. I can say that much.
Awesome.
And
I
then
do think this sounds like a beautification project, like a little bit. So
and we
I
do
think
have an art
that-
project coming in the window soon as well. We actually worked with some local photographers and we'll be hanging kind of a photography art project from the festival in one of the windows, a large hanging in the coming months. That's just something that's being put together. So that is on the docket as well. But I think in general, yes, it could certainly use a refresh. And I'll chat with our landlord to see what's possible there. Otherwise, if you ever are looking for information, there are signs taped up on the windows at the info center with QR codes, big QR codes to scan for if you want to become a member or if you'd like to rent the space. So we'll look at maybe making those a bit more visible as well. Okay, perfect. So it looks like maybe the info center, a little bit of a facelift could help folks maybe engage in the space a little bit better. All right, any other questions about the survey or any of those topics that we covered associated with the survey before we move on? Okay, and we talked about the info center. Spring event ideas, I already chatted with folks about that. Again, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to do something in the spring, let us know. We'll see if we can make that work. Scholarship committee. So we will be assembling our scholarship committee. Lauren has agreed, our vice president has agreed to serve as the MVA board member again this year. I believe, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, we are still looking for an MVA residential member to join that committee that has some type of either background or interest in education. Is that right, Lauren?
Well, I think that's Mark.
Is it filled? Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Perfect.
But yeah, but I will be reaching out to the former committee members, seeing if they're interested. Cough, cough, Mark. And then we'll be trying to get that started up here shortly.
Fantastic. And then as it's not exactly part of the scholarship committee, but it is related to the scholarship, we will be hoping to plan our annual chili cook-off to support that scholarship here in end of February, maybe beginning of March is when we normally try to hold that. So stay tuned, but we love that fundraiser and hope that folks can all help with that. Okay, also just a quick note, MVA Garden Tour and Festival for this year. I know it seems early, but I promise you it's not. These are huge events. We will be reaching out to the folks who participated in those committees here in the coming weeks to see if they're interested in participating again. And then both of those committees typically try to have their kind of inaugural meeting in March to lay the foundation for planning those events over the next several months. We did get some feedback in our festival survey, several folks suggesting that we consider moving the date of the festival, which is currently the second Sunday in September, back a couple of weeks to maybe the 4th or even last Sunday in August, to conflict less with other local events, NFL games. So that's something we're discussing. We discussed it with the committee last year as we were reviewing those results. It is not off the table, but we just have to determine if that makes the most sense for our event, and what that might look like if we were to make a change. So be pretty significant change, but we definitely hear your feedback. And when it is something that we can implement, we like to do that. So we are still discussing that possibility. Let's see here. Committee updates. Again, with beautification, we're going to kind of break off into little projects. So if you're really passionate about something, please let us know. We would love to engage with you and see how we can get those little pop-up beautification projects going as we look forward to having warmer weather someday. Let's see here. Lauren, Mike, yes, you knew I was going to call on you. Mike, our social chair, is here for you now.
Yes, Mike Pikuch, not Lauren Larrick, as the name suggests. That's my wife. Yeah, so this month's happy hour, we're starting back up now that we're into the new year. And I actually saw earlier today, Antiques on High for this month, Tuesday through Thursdays, has $5 sours. So I figured, I don't know if we've ever even had one there, so it's a good excuse to go there. They have a really nice upstairs enclosed patio, which is nice in the winter. Kind of get a feeling of being outside and not freezing. So I think that's where our next happy hour will be this month, which will be on the 19th. So that's the third Thursday this month, January 19th at 6 p.m. at Antiques on High.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to those coming back and hope lots of folks are able to join. Okay, nothing new on zoning. Tate will be back next month, hopefully. And then we will discuss if there's any changes or things coming up with zoning. But otherwise, again, please feel free to share feedback if you've got input on zoning and land use that you think we should be focusing on. Doesn't look like we have any area commissioners with us this evening, so I will skip over the Southside Area Commission updates. Community events and activity. We have the Southside Area Commission's got their next meeting coming up. It looks like, let's see here, Tuesday, January 17th from 6:30 to 8 at the Parsons Library. They are back in person. And then, of course, our next monthly meeting will be Wednesday, February 2nd, here on Zoom at 7 p.m., which we hope everyone will be able to join. Anyone have anything they'd like to share, questions, comments, community interests before we adjourn this evening? Okay. Looks like that's it. In that case, everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. Again, Happy New Year. Great to see everyone. Looking forward to the coming year and what we will do in that time. Hope to see you all next month and have a wonderful evening, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.